Hi everyone, I am back again, and today I'm going to be doing the Synastry chart between Selena Gomez and Blanco. I've had multiple requests, so I'm finally getting around to it. And it took me a couple of hours, so I would try to watch this video to the very end because everything ties in together. Now, I've said this many times before, that the media tends to show all the wonderful things that go on between two people in their relationship, and they spread it all over the media, and to me it's only part of the story between a couple, especially ones that are obviously famous. So I'm going to tell you everything that I found in this chart, and it's kind of fascinating to me because it validates what I just said. His groom, Valentine, conjuncts her Mars, Amor, and Dolores. Now, Valentine is like a sacrificial love and devotion, and it's really a wonderful asteroid to have between two people in a Synastry chart. Now, since his Valentine is conjuncting her Mars and Amor, this means that he's like a giver. He brings her presents, and it's like I said, a sacrificial love and devotion without bounds. And he probably puts chocolates on her pillow, or draws her bath for her, brings her wine while she's soaking in the bathtub with bubbles, and it's he takes off her shoes, her socks, and gets her all cozy into bed, maybe reads her a bedtime story. That is the energy of Valentine. And he makes her gourmet meals with a nice bottle of wine. That's the energy. He has Venus and Taurus, and they like food, and they like to cook, and he's probably a really good cook, but he's like a house husband, and she loves him for this because her Amor is conjuncting his Valentine. So that's one of the endearing qualities of him. What she finds really, like I just said, she loves this about him. Now, her Mars is conjuncting his groom. And to me, this means that there's a possibility that she was the one that lit a fire underneath him, or, pushed him in a way into this engagement. Because I don't think that it was his idea alone. I think that, like I said, Mars is a war planet. It's got fire and power to it, and it's conjuncting his groom. So I think that, like I said, she put fire underneath him to get into the mode of him giving her a ring. And maybe there was an argument as well because his Pholus conjuncts her Mars. And whatever Pholus conjuncts, it explodes that energy. It's like now we're putting a gasoline on the fire. And also to validate this, his Mars conjuncts her Uranus. And there's explosions there in the planetary department. Uranus is like very unstable. And then all of a sudden, there's unexpected blowups. It's conjuncting his Mars. So I don't think that it's all rainbows and butterflies. I mean, yes, all couples have arguments, but this goes over the top because also there's his Astartes conjuncting her Venus and ascendant. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Now, I'm going to go back to her Mars conjuncting her Amor and Dolores. And Dolores has to do with pain and suffering. So she might bring that to him after they get married. And since Mars is conjuncting her Dolores, she's had, I think, painful relationships, and she tends to pick men that bring her pain and suffering. That's why she kind of latched onto Benny, because of that. Valentine is it's a special energy, but there's a lot of other things going on here that I don't think can sustain that romantic, the romance and the devotion. It could be stomped out by the rest of what's going on in this chart that I'm going to get to. But like I said, there's a lot of arguments. And her Mad Hatter is conjuncting her Mars natally, and there's craziness there and drama. Now, his Astarte, I'm going back to the arguments and the blow-ups. And this also is fascinating as well because there's another asteroid there conjuncting her Venus and her ascendant. So we have his Astarte and Don Quixote conjuncts her Venus, ascendant, and Chiron. Astarte, blow-ups and arguments, conjuncting her love planet, love, over the relationship, and it's conjuncting her ascendant as well. So there's like a double shot here of espresso. Not to be confused with Sabrina Carpenter. Maybe I should do a Synastry chart between her and one of her love interests. But anyway, his Astarte is conjuncting her Venus. Like I said, that's blow-ups and arguments. Painful. They can be painful because her Venus is conjuncting Chiron. And she's had some painful relationships in her life. In the love department, I don't think she's had very good luck. Don Quixote, the impossible dream. Don Quixote would travel around the land on his horse, and he would try to find women that he could save and protect. And if you don't know the story of Don Quixote, you can look it up on the internet, but he wanted to save, the lady he loves in his life. And I think that's one of the things going on here. They got together, and he wanted to save her, bring her presents, dote on her, try to make her feel special. But Don Quixote can also mean unrequited love. The impossible dream. Now, his maniac conjuncts her sun, and that has to do with he could be moody or get crazy. Behind the scenes with her, there's just a moodiness and a disconnect that is validated by some planetary aspects that I'm going to get to as well. But this ties into the arguments and the blow-ups between the two of them. And speaking of blow, his Boda and blow conjuncts her moon and her midheaven. And Boda has to do with a marriage, and blow has to do with failures and mistakes. That's one of the energies. So there's going to be a wedding. It's conjuncting her moon. That's a very important luminary, and her midheaven. So this is going to be right out in the open. Everybody thinks that there's going to be a wedding. She got engaged. She showed off her wedding, her engagement ring. But blow is there. So this to me signifies there's a possibility that they won't get married, or if they do, it's going to be a mistake. There's going to be failures and mistakes in this relationship. I'm sorry, there's a lot of people that are just rooting for this whole relationship. All they see is the good stuff, and they say, oh, he's so good to her, he's so nice. And yes, that is true, due to the Valentine conjuncting her Mars. But there's other things here, and I'm telling you them, and if people don't like that, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to make things up just for what people want to hear. So blow conjuncting her moon in midheaven. To me, there's a possibility that it's going to be a mistake, and it's not going to work out long term. So it's like, could be an illusion. But they don't have any moon aspects between the two of them. That's really important in a relationship for a soul-to-soul connection. So I don't have his time of birth, but even without that, the best that they could have is a moon, quincunx moon, that's in conjunct at 150 degrees. That's very, it's not really conducive for long-term happiness and a soul-to-soul connection, like I said. Now, her point of fortune conjuncts his Venus, Alma, Pan, and Lacrimosa. Also conjuncting his Venus from her is Finale. Now, the point of fortune conjuncting his Venus, this can mean like a fated love, like almost a perfect match. And his Alma is there, so there's this soulful, deep heart aspect, it would not replace the energies of the moon. It helps, but she has finale conjuncting his Venus. So this means, again, it could go back to the Boda and Blow conjuncting her moon, because finale means endings. Now, he has Venus conjuncting Alma, Pan, and Lacrimosa. So Venus, the love planet, and Alma, and there's Pan there. So he loves music. He has a soulful connection with music. And Lacrimosa is there conjuncting her point of fortune. So there's going to be tears and crying, possibly over the ending of this relationship, because finale is in this equation. Also, her Tauron conjuncts his South Node, and that has to do with bossy behavior. So I think she wears the pants in this relationship, and he is just like, I could see it, the two of them together behind the scenes, where he's bringing her something. Honey, would you like some more wine? Or can I fluff up the pillow for you? And he's very doting in that way. And she could be bossy. It's her Taurus conjuncting his South Node, but I don't think he cares. He is used to this by her. This kind of energy he's used to. And when it's conjuncting your South Node, you tend to explain it away, and you're in denial about it, or it's just, well, that's just the way she is, and I love her, and I want to take care of her. His Dejanira, Hypnos, conjuncts her South Node and Sado. Again, that's some mean girl energy right there, because Sado has to do with sadistic behavior, and it's just a mean girl or a mean guy energy, and it's conjuncting her South Node, and she feels very comfortable with that. And since his Dejanira and Hypnos is conjuncting her South Node, he is a victim of the hypnotic effect that she has on him. And she knows this. And I think she uses it to her advantage. And she's like, yeah, well, he's just so enthralled with me, and I just love that about him. So I think that, yes, she does love him. It's not like a love that you're just, like, not crazy in love. I think she's crazy in love with the idea of being married. And I think that could be validated by her Mars conjuncting his groom and her Mad Hatter conjuncting his groom, and she wanted this, and he delivered, because he is the Valentine. Also, I don't think this is really a bells and whistles love. I mean, everybody thinks that it could be, but there's a lot here, like I've just explained, but there's more in the planetary department. Now, the reason why I don't think it's a bells and whistles sort of love is because the North Node in both of their charts has conjunctions that aren't really favorable to a long-term rainbows and butterflies narrative that they're projecting. There are blind spots in this relationship, because his Sun is making a quincunx to her Mercury at 1 degree. I'll get to that later, shortly. But her Swindle conjuncts his North Node. I don't even know how I'm going to explain this, because Swindle has to do with being a con artist, or lying, or just not being upfront. And it's conjuncting his North Node. I know that's a harsh thing to say, but that is the energy of this asteroid. And when it's conjuncting his North Node, there's going to be instances of this in the relationship. Now, his Uranus and Saturn and finale conjuncts her North Node. Uranus has the energies of unstable. The relationship can be unstable or unpredictable, or an on-again, off-again energy. And they've only been together for about a year. So that's not a very long time. So all of these things that I'm explaining to you will play out. 1 year is not long enough. I've seen it take 5 years, and sometimes up to 10 or 15, but all of the aspects and the energies do come to fruition, especially if you're with the other person on a long-term basis. Now, his Saturn is also conjuncting her North Node in the sign of Capricorn, so he could end up being trying to ground her or keep it together, and almost being like having a parental sort of tone to the relationship. Trying to, like I said, trying to keep her grounded, but Uranus is there as well. So it's a possibility of a back and forth, on again, off again relationship. Finale is there. So to me, this can also indicate that the relationship is not going to last for a very long time. I'm talking like a forever relationship where you grow old together. How long will this last? I don't know. I'd have to look at other charts, progressed, solar arc, transits, and solar returns and Venus returns, and that takes a lot of time. But this doesn't look great to me in the long term. And that Sun I don't say that right. It's in conjunct at 150 degrees. So his Sun in conjunct her Mercury, that's a blind spot. There's difficulties in communication, and they're not on the same page. It's hard to understand each other. You have to really agree to disagree the way you try to come across the other person and communicate. And since they've got those blow-ups and arguments aspects in their chart, this is going to be difficult. The inconjuncts take a while to show up, but they always do. And if you can't handle them correctly, it's really a thorn in the side of the relationship. And they might end up in a therapist's office. Write that one down, because inconjuncts, especially more than one, you're going to a therapist. And I would say that it's going to be difficult. They also have Mercury square Pluto, double whammy, and that has to do with trying to control the other person's thought processes, trying to get into their minds psychically, trying to control how they think or how they talk. And this also is tying back to the inconjunct and the asteroids and the Uranus conjuncting Mars. And they have Pluto square Venus that can lead to unhealthy attachments and control. And his Pluto squares her ascendant. There's more control issues here as well. So this is a Plutonian relationship. They can be very powerful, but I just don't see this as the bells and whistles, rainbows and butterfly relationship that everyone thinks it is, because they're only concentrating, like I said, on the energy of his Valentine conjuncting her Mars and Amor, and that is not sustainable long term. So that's all I have for today, and I hope you enjoyed this interpretation. And if you're interested in getting a Synastry chart, my email is in the description box, and I will be back shortly. So have a nice day.